Hey, welcome back to Evil's Comics. This guy right here is Evil Mike, and I got a review for you today from Boom Studios. This is Once Upon a Time at the End of the World, issue number 2. It is written by Jason Aaron, art by Alexandre Tefenkgi, colors by Lee Loughridge, and letters by AndWorld Design. And I know I mispronounced the artist name. I apologize. No disrespect at all. This book was highly requested for me to review, and it is my first read of the my new books, and man, what a read. But before we get into my review, please like, comment, and subscribe. It definitely helps this guy out. Definitely the comments, I love the feedback. So without further ado, let's get into Once Upon a Time, right? So the book directly jumps back into where the first issue left off, because the end of the first issue we got to see a future scene with Maceo, and he was like older and captured by somebody. No, I'm talking about where we left off with Maceo and Mezzi. Mezzi was leaving the tower where Maceo was living. And that's kind of where this picks up, and Maceo's basically getting ready to leave with Mezzi. I'm sorry, the names are like so close. So, so we have this heartwarming scene here with Maceo, and of course, back here, and I have to look at it. Yeah, back here in this door, that's where his parents are, and we don't know exactly what happened to them. They haven't really gone into that, but they're kind of like zombified or dead. I think they're still alive, but they're like mutated or radiated or something like that. But basically, he's telling him that he's leaving. He's, sending his love and stuff, and then he goes over and does this, and it's like this claw machine that he's invented over here, where it like randomly plays cassette tapes that he's recorded for his parents, and like every now and then it just goes and grabs another one and plays another one. And it does show that his parents are like in a loving embrace, like listening to, Maceo's stories about like inventing chocolate and peanut butter, or, stuff like that. Even though, I mean, it's because it's the end of the world, and he knows nothing about the world, kind of thing. So we finally do leave the tower and into the wastelands. Of course, you can see that Maceo is like just overburdened. They eventually come to this like trash kind of wasteland area. There's some dope spreads here, but most of the time Maceo is talking. Mezzi's not really doing a lot of the talking. Maceo gets to the point where he's like, "Hey, when are we gonna get back to like how we were talking back at the tower? Like good old Maceo and Mezzi, conversation, banter kind of thing." And she's like, "Look, the only thing I want to know is, what skills do you know?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, skills. I got the skills. I got all them good skills, And she's like, "What skills?" And he's like, "Well, what skills are you referring to?" And she starts naming off like that's what all the different squares are. And I'll give you an example: hunting, skinning, eating without puking, making socks from rat organs, starting fires from wet garbage, wound sewing, sleeping with her eyes open, and there's a whole nother page. Eventually, when it gets down to here, it's like not dying, not dying, not dying, not speaking, not feeling, not looking behind, that kind of thing. She's in survival mode, and she's been in survival mode for so long, And then we go back to Maceo, and he has some of the best answers ever. He's like, "Well, do you have the pogo stick skill?" And he starts like, he finds a pogo stick and starts, going around the garbage, and he's like, "Well, what about like, cloud viewing skills?" And he's like, and eventually she's like, "Hey, these aren't real skills. This is a joke. This is the wastelands. Everything out here is gonna kill you." And no. He's like, "Not everything's so scary and ugly out here." And he walks over to like this piece of trash, and it's really just it's a whole bunch of like, very pretty colored plastic maybe melted together or something. But he's like, look at this gemstone, and she's like, look, that's just glass and plastic, and she slaps it out of his hand. She's like, look, this ain't a joke, if you don't leave and go back to the tower, she's like, I'll kill you, kind of thing. And sadly enough, Maceo leaves, and he's like, fine, I'll go back home, and as he's leaving, she does kind of like look back, and for some, the book even says she doesn't know why she looked back, but she does call Maceo, and he's all like, what changed your mind? This is so great. And she's all like, no, shut up and run. And it's really because there was this massive like trash twister that's in the wasteland that's about to kill him. And we kind of see that it's just this panic mode, them trying to make it out of the twister. With one of her skills, they do survive. Mezzy starts like burrowing down in the trash. She makes like this kind of cavern hole. As soon as they get down there, they find out that there are other stuff in the trash, like waiting for them. It's a whole crap ton of rats. But she's got skills for the rats. I mean, she kind of went into the rat thing like 4 or 5 times on her skill list. But she basically like kills one of the rats along the ways, and she like mutilates him in such a way it scares the other rats away or whatever for a time. She says it's not like, for everything, for everything. But they do eventually find like a kind of cave within the trash, burrows or whatever, and basically Mezzy's like, look, while we have a moment, we have a couple hours until the storm passes, let's catch some sleep. And he's like, how can you sleep down here? And as soon as he says that, Mezzy's already asleep or whatever, and he starts, I want to say that he gets into like this kind of depressed, sad mood where he's like, suddenly I wish I was back at home, in my inventing room where I could play with all my bits and bobs and pieces, and he's like, wait a minute, he was like, running like trash and rubble. He was like, I could do what I do. In a couple of hours, Mezzy wakes up, and she kind of wakes up with the smell. It's because while she was sleeping, he didn't sleep, and he spent all night like inventing stuff. He actually converted like the methane that's in the trash to like generate power. He actually like converted and like stuff to make a stove, and found edible food. Most of it's candy and stuff. He mentions a syrup bowl and asks if she'd like it topped with like Pop-Tart bits or cookie crumble, I don't know, but it's mostly candy stuff, but it is food. But and he's like, he kind of mentions that he likes eating his syrup bowl with there's the syrup bowl, well, his breakfast spread, I guess, with cartoons, and he's even like built a working TV, showing up here, they're watching cartoons. But he did that all in a matter of like a couple hours or whatever. She is all like amazed by it, and all of a sudden she is reflected back to something that has guided her whole path, and that's the Rangers. And we get a little more like her backstory on the Rangers, and they do this flashback part where she's getting like questions about the Ranger like motto or credo or what have you. We even see this Ranger guys doing the questionnaire and testing of this group here, and they're like newbie Rangers or whatever. But she's kind of mentioned before that she has this book. The book has all these like quotes and stuff. One of the quotes is, you shouldn't stay in a cave for too long because either something's gonna come in the cave to eat you or something like that. Every time she mentions one of these mottos to Maceo always has this like quick comeback, or like a different way to look at the credo, where it's not just this like if you don't do this you're gonna die kind of thing, because that's not how the world works. Like you could live in a cave, and if you barricaded it and maintain, you could survive. It could be your home. You could live in that cave. Eventually, after chatting a little bit, and then this flashback, Messy actually like sits down, and because she's never actually seen a cartoon, and he's like, oh, you never seen this episode? He makes it seem like TV's still a thing and stuff, because in his tower he had all this. He had like old cassettes and videos and stuff like that. But she does sit down for a little bit and enjoy. Eventually, they do crawl out of the hole, and it's back to the wasteland type thing. At this time, this is where they get their. It's that conversation about the Rangers and stuff, because we just had the flashback and the book and stuff like that. At this point, she's kind of determined. She's like, "Look, you can come with me as long as you try not to die so much, you know." And the next couple of panels are amazing because that's exactly what he's doing. He's, falling off a cliff and she's saving him. There's like another time where he's in quicksand. There's even this like hyper disgusting moment where he's got like something burrowed in his stomach and she actually had to open him up, and she's screaming at him, "Don't squirm so I can get the eggs before they hatch." They're like crossing what looks like maybe plasma lava, I don't know. But eventually she starts like, she flips on this tape recorder and she puts it on, and supposedly it calms her down. The book tells us what it is, and it's a recording of just screams, and you can actually see here the and it's literally just a tape of like ah. I thought they were going to go into the backstory, like maybe that was the end of the world and she had recorded or something. It's nothing like that, because it gets interrupted because Maceo is all like, "Oh, you got a tape recorder? I love a tape recorder. I used to tape and play stuff for." "Oh yeah, yeah," and he did it for his mom and dad, but he kind of trails away, doesn't want to talk about it, kind of thing. Eventually they do get to this point where they're camping and like for the night or whatever, and most of the conversation is Mezzy, and she's like, all her instincts are telling her that she needs to kill this guy, leave him, the next time he's about to die just walk away, kind of thing. And then she reminds herself like why she's doing this, and she says she goes back to the ranger, the guidebook or whatever, and what would the rangers do, and it's something along the terms like, that they would save him, that they would rescue him, that then that's what you're supposed to do, kind of thing. So we're back at this like campfire and stuff, and for the night, and Maceo's actually sleeping. Mezzy's over here and she wakes him up and she's like, "Hey, I got a question. Have you ever heard about Christmas?" Maceo's so dazed because he was really asleep, and he's like, "Did you just ask about Christmas? I must be dreaming or something." And she's like, "Look, we don't know." She's like, "In the Rangers, we didn't know a lot about before the wastelands and before the world, the way it is now." And basically she's like, "Did you know they had holidays?" And she was like, "The Rangers didn't celebrate them, but we knew about them." And she was like, "Christmas was my favorite." And she was like, "I've never gotten to celebrate it." And she actually has a gift from Maceo, and she gives it to him, and it's like right here. It's this weird like rat. I don't know. It's like, it kind of looks like it does look like a box, but it's kind of like covered in rat skins and stuff. I don't know. But he's like, "Oh my God, my parents did mention Christmas every now and then. I forgot about Christmas." He was like, "Wait, I do have a gift for you." And he reaches over and, oh, that's what it was inside. It's not a book. She went back and she got that gemstone. She went back and got that piece of plastic that he thought was beautiful or whatever. So he's like, oh, wait. And he scrambles and he's like, "I have a gift for you." And, he shows it right here, and it's more of like these plastic, gemstones or whatever, maybe bits of marbles, stuff like that. She goes to sleep, and when they wake up, he is like decorated where they were camping out. It's on this tower over here. It looks like Christmas lights, but it's all those like, I guess, gemstones, and he's somehow generated power. But they kind of continue forward, and as they continue forward, she's like, "From this point on, I'm going to do like the opposite of the Ranger credo, every time I have that question." Because, traveling with Maceo it's just been a happier and funner, like, time kind of thing. The book kind of does this, like, jump over thing. Well, it actually goes backwards because we find out they're being trailed by the Rangers. And we see that that they found her boat. They actually sent a scuba team down to get her boat. They've actually found where she made it on shore, made it to the tower. They've seen that now she's traveling with somebody else, and they can already tell that he is overburdened, that he keeps falling down. It looks like he keeps trying to get himself killed. And basically they come with a determination, why would she be walking with this other person, being a ranger herself? And they've come to the determination that like she's reverting to an uncivilized state. And now she needs to be taken out or something like that. And that's kind of where this issue leaves off. They show us like this I don't know, a caravan that they're, pulling or whatever. I'm assuming this one's the person in charge, but we don't get a lot from her. It's just one thing that says, like, we'll never reclaim the world from ruin. But we do get a name from them, the Wasteland Rangers. But that's where this book's off. No hint at the next issue or nothing like that. No cover. But my final thoughts is this book was fantastic. I'm so glad I read it first. Sometimes I prefer these at the last in case you encounter a bunch of bad stuff. No, but this book was fantastic. The art was stellar. There was a couple parts of the book where, like, the part where he was doing the tape recordings for his parents. I mean, you're talking about pulling on my heartstrings with just words. This was great writing. This story is fantastic. I am so on board with it. Yeah, I did that whole flipping around the future thing, but now we got like a kind of evil presence that's after them kind of thing. I wouldn't say evil, but it's gonna be like that. They had weapons and all kind. They already think she's uncivilized. But let me know down below, what are you thinking about this book? Did you read it? Did you pass it up? If you are reading it, let me know. What don't you like about it? What do you like about it? What am I missing? Let me know. Alright guys, that's my review. I'm sorry it's a little long, but this book was very exciting. I will see y'all later. I got a couple more reviews I got to drop. Be on the lookout for those. And bye!